Hello everyone. So in this video, I just want to quickly talk about some open source issue tracking softwares, or I should say bug tracking software, or maybe in a way project management tools. Now, a lot of people know me as a Jira guy. I have been doing a lot of things on Atlassian tools, especially Jira, and that has been my main competency. And this has been the case for the last 15 years. But I started using Jira because I was asked to, and I was not really given a choice because I was working for a company where they gave me this responsibility that I have to deploy, manage, maintain, and customize Jira, and also make sure that new teams are migrated to Jira from other tools. But talking about project management tools, software, it has been my area of interest from day one. I mean, when I say day one of my professional uh, career. So, sometime in early 2000, I have been doing freelancing since late 90s, but it was in early 2000s when I thought of a tool that I can use so that I can manage my work, because when you're doing one thing, it is probably easy. When you're doing two things, you can still manage, but when you're doing multiple things, then you need a system. And when I was in college, when I was doing my engineering, we studied software engineering. It was, to be honest, really boring subject, but it was part of the curriculum, and we learned about all the development methodologies. And back then, to be honest, agile was not really a thing. It was more about waterfall and some form, some kind of agile, but it was not really called agile back then. Now, talking about the tools. So I have tried a lot of different tools. So when I was doing freelancing, when I started doing consultation, in the beginning I used to help other companies set up their Linux servers. Then I moved on to providing trainings, consultation, and I reached a point where I was actually a bit desperate to use some kind of tool. And I've used tools like, to be honest, MS Project as well in the past. And of course, talking about a simple spreadsheet, because spreadsheets always, in a way, works. Of course, they are not really portable. They are not really, I mean, they are portable, but they are not really, you can't really collaborate on Excel sheets, and it is basically your own local file. Now, I have used different project management tools in the past for my own personal needs, and I've used tools like Track. Track is, again, and by the way, these are all open source, so I'm not really going to talk about Jira, but I just want to share that there are alternatives, and these alternatives have been there for a long time, and they work in most cases. Not always, but when I say in most cases, you can't really expect one tool to do each and everything, and that is also true for Jira. But if you are looking for an open source tool to manage your work, to manage your um, activities, then these open source tools can definitely help. So these are not only my recommended list, but these tools are something that I have tried and used, and I probably have maybe some of these tools still running somewhere on my old server, and I don't really use them, but because I use Jira, that is what I do, by the way. Now, talking about Track is great. It is very simple. It has a lot of simple basic features that will actually give you, I think, a decent start when it comes to managing the list of activities that you want to plan. Uh, maybe you have a team and you want to work by defining the activities that you need to do for the next few months. You can do that with Track. Track is actually quite good. Similarly, Bugzilla, as the name suggests, it has been there for a long time in the industry. People are still using it, and Bugzilla is a simple bug tracker. That is what it was back then. I'm sure there are probably new features in it, but it is nothing but a simple issue tracker, web-based issue tracker, like defect management software. And the way you work on Bugzilla is you simply create a new issue. And back then, I'm not really sure if they have a concept of workflow now, but back then it was more about, okay, if you have to change the status, you change the status using a drop-down field. That is it. I'm sure things are probably different now, but if you're using Bugzilla, there are some third-party extensions that you can also try. And to be honest, I have never really tried these plugins or extensions, but these are some of the possibilities. Similarly, Redmine is also a bit similar to Track, and Redmine came a bit later, if I remember correctly, but I have tried this. I have tried this for, I believe, time tracking feature, which is something that I always wanted to do. Now, talking about time tracking, you want to basically, this was interesting because I wanted to keep track of the time that I'm spending. But more than time, more than logging my actual time, I was actually also interested in planning with the original estimates. For example, when you make a plan, the plan can have, let us say, 5 items that you need to do. And for those five items, you may further break it down. Let us say, talking about traditional agile terms like epic and stories and subtasks. So I was always looking for that kind of functionality in these tools where I can store time, like not time, but the estimate, the original estimate. And at the same time, I can then log time against those original estimates. There are possibilities in these tools, but there is no such tool so far. Till 2007, I didn't find a tool that can have this functionality of planning the work in advance. At the same time, logging time, and most importantly, the thing which I really loved about Jira was the workflow, because using workflow, the thing which is of course not there in Jira even now is now there are some possibilities on cloud, but Jira Cloud, but there is no Gantt chart kind of a view in Jira. Now we have some possibilities, like for example, if you're using advanced roadmaps, if you're on data center version, or if you're on cloud. On cloud, you have to be on the premium version. On cloud, also you have the normal roadmap feature with each and every project. But when you have to plan the work across multiple projects, and you have dependencies, then that particular roadmap kind of a feature was not really there in Jira for a long time. There was always a possibility, but the thing that was really good for me was the workflow. The way you can customize the workflow, and the way you can have different projects follow their own workflow, and within a project you can have different issue types, like bug can have its own life cycle, story can have its own life cycle. At the same time, you have amazing control over the permissions. You also have this ability to interact with Jira using APIs. So that is why I started using, in the beginning I was of course asked to look at Jira, but when I looked at it, when I tried it, I in fact moved, or basically shifted my focus to Jira, and I realized that yes, I can also maybe build my career around Atlassian tools, which I did. And I was one of the, my company Sparksys was one of the first, or I think, yeah, I'm sure we are probably one of the first company who started doing consultancy around Atlassian tools. It was probably in like 2007, 8, 9, 10-ish. Of course, in the beginning we were not really doing a lot of Atlassian work in 2007 or 8, but starting from 2010 onwards, we have been doing a lot of work. So it has been more than a decade, and all of this was possible because when you are providing services around a tool like Jira is of course a paid tool. You have to pay for it, and now there is a cloud version, but back then it was the server version of Jira. So you need to install Jira on your own server, and that is where my Linux skills. I was able to use my Linux skills as well. The thing is that when you learn something, you can actually reuse it. You can actually apply the same skills, maybe in a different form somewhere else. So I used to set up and configure Jira instances for my clients, and I have also deployed Bugzilla and also tracked for a couple of my clients back then. But when I moved to Jira, I never really looked back. I know it's a bit sad because there is no, even in 2022, there is no open source issue tracking or project management software that can actually come close to Jira in terms of the features and in terms of various things that Jira can do. And yeah, I was talking about the list. So Project Open is also one tool which I tried briefly once. And also, there are a couple of other tools which I tried, but I never really used them for doing real work. For example, Project Libre is, I believe, an application that, I mean, it's like MS Project. You can create Gantt charts and you can basically plan the work, but I'm not really sure if they have like a collaborative version. They say that they have cloud project management. Maybe I'll take a look at it. But when I tried it last time, it was like a software that you need to install. So it says here Project Libre Cloud. Maybe they have a cloud version. So maybe I'll give it a try. So this is something that I will definitely try, and I will probably give you my feedback. Okay, so I think it is already given. I mean, I'm looking at this link here. Oh, so basically it's all about. Okay, so I think they're probably inviting to their online webinar or meeting, some kind of a meeting. And also the last one is Dot Project. So out of all these, I think Track, Bugzilla, Redmine, and Dot Project, I've used them for some time, not really for a long time, but yes, I used Bugzilla for I think 6-7 years. I also used Track for a long time, but briefly I used Dot Project as well, which is also a web-based, PHP-based application. It is something that, if I remember correctly, I think it has a lot of features. I mean, I was very happy with the feature set of Dot Project, but this particular open source project, when I tried it, I was still looking for that workflow feature, because when it comes to defining the life cycle of the issue, I think that is probably for me the ultimate feature. And if I talk about all the things that I was looking for, there was no open source based project that I could find. And yes, I have also tried to build my own. So I actually tried to build my own open source software in PHP long back. And I also once tried to build a similar version of my own PHP based online issue tracker that can also be synced to Jira. So back then Jira, even in 2022, they have APIs, REST APIs. But back then, when I was starting to use Jira had SOAP APIs. And the way SOAP API work is a bit different with REST. I mean, if you compare it with REST API, it is different. And by the way, if you want to learn about SOAP and REST API, you can actually go to my website and search for SOAP REST API. You'll basically find this this particular video which I made, and this particular video is actually very popular. So if you want to learn the difference between REST and SOAP, watch this video. You will probably learn something. And you will understand when to use what and why you should not really compare these two. So yes, Jira had SOAP APIs, and I actually tried to sync my own tool. So in this video, I just wanted to give you a list of these tools that I have used briefly for some period in the last 20 years. And again, I don't really use any of these anymore. Maybe Bugzilla slightly, because I know one of my clients is still using it. And in fact, I deployed it for that particular client. But apart from Bugzilla, I don't really use any other tool. But if you are, I'm not just making this video to give you some information. I'm also seeking some information. If you are familiar with any tool which is open source, which can be deployed on, which is like purely open source software, which can be deployed on-prem, then do let me know. And talking about the features, if you think it has maybe, for me, the main feature is definitely the workflow, time tracking, and what else? And maybe if there is some visualization, because people want to visualize. I don't really care too much about, to be honest, the permissions. I mean, maybe it is important. I mean, it is definitely important because in Jira you have really good permissions. But if you have workflows, if you have the ability to create some kind of visual roadmap, and there is a way to report on the data, then that is all I need, and I'll be happy to maybe use that particular software. And of course, we have org mode. Org mode is, to be honest, it's only for personal task management and note taking. It is not really for collaboration. I mean, you can try things, but collaboration is a bit difficult when it comes to org mode. Maybe you can have org mode sync to an online tool. I mean, it's a bit too much, but let me know if apart from these tools, if you are probably also aware of any other tool which can do wonderful things like project management, issue tracking, then I would love to know and explore. All right, that is all. That is all I wanted to talk about in this video. Bye bye.